what was anyone thinking, expecting England not to pull off heroics on day five at Headingley?
I mean, it's been an amazing 5 days. It has. It's what an epic 5 days. It's been first 2 days in pure sunshine, and then it got a bit colder. The weather was it turned to proper English northeast weather, north of England weather, and a little bit of rain around today, which I think just made the game that little bit more spicier because it helped the surface stay together. It was a flat pitch, and both sides should be proud of what they've achieved in this week. Loads of positives on both sides. India, I think, will kick themselves and think what could have been because on two or three occasions they should have gotten England out of sight. And you can give England a chance once, but don't give them two or three chances. And unfortunately, that's what they did, and that's why England, became victorious on what was probably the last hour of the fifth day.
Let's go straight to the hero of this game, Harmy. Ben Duckett, 149. Fine effort. Whatever the conditions, whatever the opposition, that is special to pull off on the final day of a test.
Oh, it was brilliant. You know what? I think from two sides of it, I think you've got to give. I mean, Ben Duckett played wonderfully well. He believed he was going to, play a match-winning knock. He believed he was going to score runs. He had a lot of positive intent, like he always does. I'm not sure. I'm not sure India believed that they were going to get him out. 6 overs of the end of day four, and Jadeja bowls left-hander, rough outside off stump, and he's got four men on the boundary. And that, for me, set the tone against Ben Duckett. And Ben Duckett's another one. He's very difficult to stop scoring. And I don't think India got their plans right. I don't think they bowled the right lengths, the right lines to him. And he capitalised. He got a bad ball most overs. Even when Jasper Bumrah was bowling, who didn't take a wicket in the second innings, he was marvellous all around the ground. He was so proactive, and the difference when he bats well as along with Zach Crawley, your margin for errors are so small because you just got to get your line of length wrong to one of them, and they will punish you. And Zach Crawley 6'5", Ben Duckett 5'8", low in stature, quick hands. It was a brilliant knock, and he never looked in trouble until he got out. He looked in total control, and from India's point of view, on a fifth day's pitch, that would be worrying.
And it's one thing to dominate the lesser, the newer bowlers, but Ben Duckett in that fourth innings is 32 of 49 balls against Bumrah, 38 of 38 against Jadeja. These are India's two senior bowling pros. It singles him out as perhaps a decisive man for the rest of this series.
Yeah, 100%. And I think both sides can look at that and say, well, when you get runs in the first Test match, you put the wood on the bowlers, and the bowlers are playing catch up. And that, unfortunately, from India's point of view, is what they've done with England. And with Ben Duckett, because Ben Duckett, they didn't have an answer. They didn't have a formula to stop him scoring. They didn't have a plan to say, right, this if we stop and we can bowl this side of the wicket, we can block that side of the ground off. They really were rudderless when it come to what their plan was, executing their skill set, and even in the field, I thought, you know what, they weren't stopping singles, and that is where Ben and Zach Crawley really capitalised because India's bowler were bowling good balls, but England were getting singles. And then all of a sudden, because they got the length that they were trying to bowl to Zach, the bowl to Ben, which was ended up being a four ball. And all of a sudden, the bowlers are going at sevens and eights and over, and they didn't know how to stem the tide. And that's the difficulty bowling at this pair. When Crawley and Duckett are batting well together, it's virtually impossible to stop them from scoring.
Yeah, that opening partnership of 188 eventually is England's second highest in the fourth innings of a test since
Mm.
1991. Ben Stokes has hailed it as incredible. But as much as the run scoring and the increased tempo was one part of it, an equally important part in terms of a broader storyline is how they were willing to bide their time. That first half hour on day five, where England went at barely twos, two and a halves. Is this also an innings and a partnership and a game that has shown us a refining version of Bazball.
Yeah, you can. That's one way of looking at it. I think there's also, I think England's performance was, I don't think, put under a massive amount of pressure. I'm not going to sit here and say England didn't have to work hard for their runs because that would be a silly thing to say when they score 371 on a fourth innings, fifth day pitch. But a lot of it was it wasn't under pressure, even in that first session when they were going at 2.5 and over. It wasn't as though they were bowling. India were bowling what looked like wicket taking balls or creating chances, creating huge amount of pressure. I thought England were quite comfortable for the majority of that fourth innings, and that would be a concern from an India point of view. So is it refining Bazball? I'm not so sure. I just think England went out there with a plan of positivity, like they always do, and played the game comfortably in front of them. And what they played the game comfortably in front of them was that they knew if they batted all day at the tempo that they normally bat, they would win. India would have to create chances. And unfortunately, India just went up to the task.
Yeah, those concerns around India and their bowling and their combination have been addressed and dissected by Sanjay Manjrekar. You can also catch that on ESPN Cricinfo. I want to talk to you, Parmi, from an England bowling perspective now. When you look at this test, and the first thing that stands out, you brought it up in our preview. How much can India make Ben Stokes bowl? As it turns out, 35 overs. Quite a workload for the England captain. Nothing to doubt about the quality of the bowling, but is the quantity a worrying sign?
For me, yes. I think I'd be brutally honest, and Ben knows that I'm always honest when it comes to the assessment of his body. But I think also I have to, and I think everybody should, and I urge everybody to trust Ben because he's possibly learned the hard way that he knows how far his body can be pushed. He looked amazing. He really did. He had the ball swinging. He looked the most dangerous when it comes to the seamers. So it's very, very difficult to turn around and say he shouldn't be bowling because he was that good. And that's the challenge for Ben going through 5 matches in what is 6.5, 7 weeks. If Ben can bowl like that over the course of the next 6 to 8 months, they're going to have a great chance of winning both series, big series as they're in. And the rest of the bowlers, I thought, were just short, not short as in length, just short as in overs and volume. Chris Wokes will get better as the series goes on. He proved that last summer. And his value at number 8 with the runs and keeping England in that game was so, so important. And I think when you've got something like Brydon Carson, Josh Tongue, um, you have to encourage them to be nasty towards the tail, be very aggressive with their body language and with their bowling, which is, and I've mentioned it a couple of times in the preview show. Bazball with the ball, they have to be very, very aggressive with their lengths, make it very uncomfortable for the tail enders to come in and potentially hang around with. I think Jadeja was in. So when you look at it, England's bowlers, I thought all the only criticism I'll give them is they look rusty, and that will get better as the series goes on. Ben looked probably our best seamer. I thought Shoaib Bashir bowled better in the first innings than he did in the second innings. But all in all, when you win a test match that goes late into day 5, the feel good factor from that will make you a better team, a better unit, and you will also bounce into the next test match and hopefully just iron out a few things that weren't quite right. And I think some of that was the 3 seam bowlers against India's top 6.
Mm. Lots of storylines that already appear to be ones that we will be dissecting and discussing through the length of this summer. It's been a brilliant start. England go 1-0 up. Ami, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to your company just before the second test. And that does it from us on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. England 1-0 up in the Anderson Tendulkar Trophy.